Hey guys, so in a previous video I fixed the driver's side window on my XJ and my wife has been begging me to fix the passenger side. So that's what we're going to be doing today. So our very first step is going to be removing this door panel, and in order to do that there are 5 screws that you need to remove. There's one up here in this corner, one right here next to the door handle, and there's 3 right here as well. Okay, so now that once all those screws are removed, there's also some clips that are on the back side of this door panel here, and you just want to slowly pry around the entire outer edge of the door panel. Let it pop out. You don't want to get too violent with it, because if you break these, you will have to replace them, and depending on how hard it is to come by in your area, it might be a week before you can get any more. Once all that's done, you can take it and lift it up, and it'll be free of the door. Okay, so now that the door panel is freed up, it's just kind of hanging here. We need to remove these rods from our door handle connection here, as well as remove the electronics in our door here, and these here control the lock in the window. So in order to remove these, you can pry up on this plastic clip right here, and it should pop all the way off. Should pop all the way off. Maybe if I say it one more time, should just pop off. There we go. Once that's out of the way, your rod can come up and out of that hole, and that's one freed up. And you do the same with the other one. Should just pop off, spin around, and be free. Now on this side here, you do have some tabs to push in for your door lock and your window motor. Push those in and pull those out. And it's free. I'm going to go ahead and set this aside. Alright, so now that that's all out of the way, we have to remove this dampening panel here. It's just a plastic piece that goes over this. Kind of cuts down on road noise, helps keep dust out. You want to pull that off. You can keep it or toss it. I like to keep it. It was put there for a reason. But because we do have some larger speakers in here, I am going to have to remove this speaker to get it off to keep it without ruining it. So I'm going to go ahead and pull that off as well. And set that aside. So with this window, looking at it right now, I can see where it's been a problem for a while. My brackets that actually hold the window are just kind of sitting in here. And there's some baling wire holding the window up, just like on the other side. So we're going to go ahead and find a way to hold this window up. That way we can pull all this out and then start removing our hardware. Okay, so our next step is going to be to start removing our bolts. There are going to be 2 10mm bolts that hold the window to the regulator. These are already removed, as you can see here, as well as the rest of the bolts are going to be 10mm. We have this one here, there's 2 down here, and there's 2 over here. These ones here actually go into the motor. So we're going to pull all that out. Ooh, forgot one thing. There's nothing holding up my window right now. Okay, so since we have wire holding up the window, I'm going to go ahead and loosen these bolts and relocate my wire somewhere else. Alright, now that those ones are removed and out of the way, we can go ahead and remove the rest of them. Alright, now that all that is removed, we can go ahead and try to get our regulator out. You might have to twist it and turn it certain ways. It's a real pain. Here we go. Okay. And there we have it. It is out. In order to unlock these little plugs here, it's a little red lock mechanism for the plug. That should just pry out, pull out a ways to unlock it, and then you can get your plug undone. So looking at it straight away, I can see a big problem. It's broke right here. So we are going to have to fix that the same as we did on the other side. But not only that, we are broke the same as the other side on this side here. This little plastic piece is broken as well. So we're going to go ahead and get started on tearing that all apart. Okay, so when I'm looking at this, I can see that there is definitely a couple of things wrong with it. For one, it is broke up here, and that's where the plastic guide has broke free from the inner cable. But not only that, our inner cable is exposed, which means our plastic here is broken, and we're going to try to fix that as well. We're going to go ahead and bench test it here, and I'll show you what's going on. Hopefully you guys can see it okay. But looking right here, you can see it comes all the way out. Instead of pushing up against the plastic, it actually comes all the way out. But this needs to stay together in order for that cable to push our window guide up. How we did it before was I took some wire loom and strapped it down real tight to this, so that way it would maintain its rigidity. And I think we're going to do that same thing again today. I'm not quite sure, but we'll see what happens. In order to fix the problem on this other side with this bigger piece, I did order parts from Steiger Performance. It's the same thing that I ordered for the other side. I'll go ahead and I'll put links in the description down below. But you get a new metal piece instead of that plastic or a Teflon piece that breaks really easy. This new metal piece will not break. They boast about it. It's great. I actually really like it. I think it's a great product. They're not a sponsor. I just really like their product. It comes with a bolt and a nut, some washers, the metal piece, as well as some small hardware, because you do have to do some drilling to remove all your pieces here. if I would change one thing about their product, it would be the instructions. The instructions are really clear, but when they give them to you, they ball them all up real tight and jam it in a little plastic baggie. If they could keep their instructions outside of that plastic baggie, it would be a lot easier to unfold and read down the road. But what I would recommend is you can just go to their website and you can print up new instructions that are nice and flat, unfolded, as well as color pictures. Or you can just bring it up on their website and go from there. God, it's hot in here. So we got our regulator laid out on our table. Our first step is to remove this here and to remove this plastic portion from the regulator piece. So we're going to remove the plastic from the metal piece. We're going to drill out this rivet or remove this rivet here in some way. So in order to remove the rivet, you can drill it out. You can use a hammer and a chisel if you want. You can use a grinder, it doesn't matter, a little Dremel tool, cut off wheel. But we just need to remove this rivet. So the next thing we're going to do is take a flat screwdriver or something that we can use to pry. And there's two tabs right here that we're going to pry on. So that way we can separate the plastic from the metal piece here. Once those are pried up and out of the way, you can go ahead and separate your pieces. It's very important that you don't force it, because if you force it, it will break this piece, and we don't want to break this piece. Now that that plastic piece is out of the way, we can go ahead and slide our bracket off of our guide rail. So our next step is we do want to drill out this rivet right here. We're going to be replacing it with a bolt when we put our new piece on, as well as we're going to be cutting this right along that line there. Once we cut it there, this is where our new piece is going to go. So we're going to go ahead and do that right now. You can do this in multiple ways. You can take a Dremel tool and you can cut along that line with a Dremel tool. You can take a knife and score it a bunch and break that piece off. But remember, be careful, because we want to retain the rest of all of this. Very important. So according to Steiger's instructions, you need to remove the fuzz approximately 1 inch from the end of our cable right here. I'm going to go ahead and move it a little bit farther back just to make sure that we got it all out of the way. Now that we've picked all the fuzz out of this and made it clean, we can go ahead and thread our piece onto the end. You don't want to force it. If it feels like you're forcing it, there's something wrong. Sometimes there's a little bit of metal buildup here, or doesn't quite fit right towards the end. You can go ahead and grind that down a little bit or file it down so that you get a nice clean spin on. Okay, once you get it on there, you want it to protrude from the end about 1/8 to 1/4 inch. And it helps if you don't mount it on there upside down. So now we're going to bolt it to our piece here. The instructions do talk about bolting it here first, but it makes it hard to thread your cable on if you don't have your cable completely out of your regulator. So we're going to go ahead and bolt that together now, but we're going to leave it loose. That way it gives us room for adjustment later. One thing to note is you want your bolt to go through from your bracket side and your nut on the opposite side. That way it allows for maximum clearance. It should go either way, but that doesn't mean it will. Now once you've got that loosely installed, you can go ahead and slide this back into your rail. Once you get it slid in, you can go ahead and fold your little tabs back down. Once your tabs are folded down, you can go ahead and install a machine screw where you drilled out that rivet previously. And once you've done that, you can go ahead and tighten it down. All right, now that we've taken care of that, we're going to address our issue over here where this is broken. So our piece here is rounded on one side and flat on the other. We want to try to round that off a little bit more and maybe cut some serrations in it so that way the wire loom has something to bite onto. You can also use a piece of tubing. You can slice it down one side, the length of it, and use a piece of tubing. The reason why we're doing this here instead of replacing the regulator is you can't find new regulators for the two-door models anymore for some reason. And a lot of people just go with the option to convert them to hand crank. I don't want to do that. I like luxury items in my Jeep. But we're going to go ahead and use a piece of wire loom to repair this side the same as we did the other. It's a quick fix. It's not a permanent solution. You can also remove all the cable out of it and use a new piece of tubing, drill into this piece here, and it's just a whole process. This way I can do a quick fix. It'll last just as long as what I need it to. Maybe it'll come apart one day, maybe it won't. I'm sure it will. When that happens, I can just reach in the door and fix it. One thing that I am going to do different in this video than the previous video is I'm going to be using hose clamps instead of cinching down a bunch of zip ties. I think the hose clamps will work out okay. I know one important thing is that I keep the big pieces towards the inner door panel. That way they don't rub up against the window. So I can just make sure that my metal is sticking out where it's not going to rub up against anything. And there we go. That is holding pretty tight. Now let's test it. Look at that, beautiful. Okay, so now that it is out, it would be a good time to lubricate everything. You want to avoid like WD-40 or anything that's going to collect a lot of dust. It's really good to use like a dry graphite lubricant. So I'm going to get some graphite and spray these down. Alright, so now that we're all fixed up, we can go ahead and start putting our window regulator and motor back in the door. There's no perfect way to do it. Just try not to break anything while you're doing it. Alright, so now that our regulator is in place and hand tight, we can go ahead and lower down our window and get it lined up with these holes right here. You want to be extra careful. If you have help, that's best. If not, and you're like me and You can't help but do all this stuff by yourself. Be extra careful that you don't drop the window. You can wedge something in here to press up against the window. That way it doesn't go all the way down. But we're just going to wing it. It works great. Now we just got to put all our parts back. One important thing to check after you've got it all in is you want to go ahead and run your window up and down a couple of times to make sure that you didn't run any screws in there too far and it's going to hit the window. Goes all the way down, all the way up. No window scratches. I'd say that this was a success. If you like this video, please give this video a thumbs up. As always, don't forget to subscribe.